You don't need intelligence. You don't need business background. You just need resilience. Like, I'm from an artistry background, zero business experience at all. I'm used to drawing pretty pictures, not filling out Excel spreadsheets.
Hey, everybody. I wanted to bring on another member who has been in the Amazon space battling as a seller for quite a while. I have Robin Brown, Inner Circle member for quite a while, and I want him to be able to share his story about his journey. All of us are basically doing the same thing, but in many different ways, and all of our journeys will be different than the next person, which is what makes the Inner Circle so great. I think that we can share 99% of the strategy, the processes, but the products that you choose for your business are going to be different and unique to your capabilities, your budget, your risk profile, and your desires, your tastes, right? And everyone's going to scale their business in a different way to a different height based on what they want to achieve. And everyone should always use happiness as their own North Star. So, Robin, first of all, congratulations on the baby.
Thanks, man. Big change.
Yeah, that always is a huge change. But thanks for joining us. And I want to start off by asking you a few questions about how you started, what you were doing before, and talk more about how you found it. So what were you doing before you found Amazon?
So as a visual effects artist, working on feature films for 10 plus years. And it's a fun, kind of cool job to do, but the hours can get a bit crazy. If you're working on like a film in the kind of Marvel universe or whatever, you can be doing sort of 70 to 100-hour weeks for a couple of months at a time. And I had a lot of passion for it and loved doing it, but kind of after doing it for so many years, I started to think, how's this going to work with a family? Like, I'll just kind of disappear for a couple of months at a time. And in the back of my head, I started thinking maybe I should look at different options. So during a quiet period, I just started listening to podcasts and ended up finding one with Adam Hudson talking about the FBA model, and started digging and going down the rabbit hole from there, really.
And so that's a phenomenal background and story. I think that everyone thinks about that job as being super glamorous, like your artistic ability and ability to be able to render and do different three-dimensional shots and make them come to life on the big screen is an incredible talent. And for you to walk away from something like that because of the demand on your time really speaks volumes, because I think that a lot of people do eventually find Amazon because they want something different, right? And Adam Hudson being with Reliable Education, that is not a name that's known as much outside of Australia, but I have to admit that almost every single Australian that I know that does Amazon knows at least who he is, but probably started with Reliable Education, which is a pretty phenomenal job that he's done at marketing and at least getting people started, which is pretty incredible. And I know Adam well, so that's awesome. Now tell me, so you stumbled across, you started listening to him, and did you bought the course, you started looking for a product? Like, what was the beginning like for you and when you decided to start selling on Amazon?
So I didn't actually do Adam's course. I just heard him on, I think it was the Eventual Millionaire podcast, and that kind of got me down the rabbit hole. I listened to a lot of Scott Volker stuff back in the early days, and watched the $1 Million Case Study. Kind of, yeah, I guess the first part of my journey was just learning myself, and didn't do a course or anything like that, which in hindsight is definitely something that I'd change off the bat. I kind of got
so I remember those days too, because when Jennifer and I started with Private Label, we decided Scott was someone that we listened to as well, and he had some minor success, and then was teaching quite a bit about brand building pretty early on. Left out a couple of the key details, obviously. And then he did the $1 Million Case Study with Jungle Scout with, what they do. They did the s'mores sticks or something.
Yeah, the marshmallow sticks was the first one,
Marshmallow
I think,
sticks, that's
and
what it
then
was.
baby blankets or something like
And
that.
then they did something else. Yeah, I remember that. So Going way back, that's probably 2015, 2016 you're talking about, and that's about when you started as well.
Can't remember when I started. So I've been doing it full time 2 years now, and part time, I guess, maybe a year and a half before that. So
Maybe
it
it was
took
like
me a while. There's
2017. So maybe you were listening to it, or 2018. Yeah.
definitely a lot of paralysis analysis at the start and overthinking. So it probably took me 11 months before I pulled the trigger on the first product, which was definitely an interesting time because I got to the point where I'd found a product, found the manufacturer, placed the order. And then 2 days after I placed the order, I remember I was looking in some Facebook groups and someone was making a post like this tutor group is giving these list of products to their members, so best to avoid them. And I was like, oh, you kidding me, man?
Did I
So I
make
wasn't
that
sure what
post,
to
by the
do.
way?
No, that wasn't you.
Okay,
I
because
don't
I've
think that
made
was you.
similar posts for sure.
But I was gobsmacked. I was like, I can't believe, why did they think that's a good idea?
They
But
do
basically,
it. Yeah, they do it for the clicks to get people into their list, and they don't realize the harm they're doing to all the people that just placed orders, and how they're going, especially when they have such a large list too. I mean, I think that Jungle Scout is famous for doing that. They've definitely put those lists out, and they don't realize that if you send out a blast to 50,000 people about what products to do, and then you have 1,000 people or 500 people doing the same exact product, 98% of those people are going to fail,
yep.
simply based on the market size and their ability to execute, which
Well,
wasn't
I was
taught
one
very
of
well
them.
from me. I'm so sorry to hear that. What was the
It's
product?
all good. It was a felt letterboard, which kind of
That was
yeah,
a
there
very,
was a
very
fidget
famous
spinner, and
push.
then yeah,
Yeah, the felt letterboards were definitely something pushed very heavily, along with the scratch off maps. Yeah, and I can probably name a bunch of different products that these gurus have pushed out at different times to their entire list, thinking that that's a good idea to try to look good, and it just ends up being. And it's funny because I try to use examples, and as I'm using the example, I try to use an example you shouldn't do, right? I'm like, don't you do a diaper caddy?
yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, so by the time it had hit the shores, like the market was totally saturated. And yeah, just ended up kind of liquidating and getting rid. But important process to go through and learn. And I'd gone through all that hardship. I thought I'm not going to give up at this point. I kind of um, before Amazon, I'd built up a bit of cash and I was looking to get into property investing, but because I'm from the UK, my partner's from Australia. We were traveling back and two, and I never was in a fixed location to make that work. So I had a bit of cash saved up to use on Amazon. So I thought, okay, I'll give this another crack. And that's when I bought my first course, which was the Seller Tradecraft one, like Nick, Fernando, and Anthony.
Very good friends of mine.
Um,
I love those guys very much. They're
really great people.
we were all co-founders of $1 Million Sellers, and have known each other for many years. I remember I was with Anthony the day he quit his job and to go full time into Amazon. We were in Vegas together. Yeah, phenomenal.
Yeah, I really like those guys. Ran a great course, really smart, switched on people. And as part of that process, you could kind of vet your products with Fernando, who's kind of doing that kind of thing the most, which was a lifesaver. And he definitely gave good advice in terms of, okay, your first one was a failure. We want to be extra careful kind of on your second one so you don't get discouraged if you got another failure. So, spent a bit more time finding a product that would work and be a bit of a kind of first base hit, I guess, and get the process going.
Dude, Fernando is brilliant. Nick is great too. I mean, they're both brilliant, but they complement each other so well from a partnership perspective too, about what they handle, their roles, their personalities. They've built up a phenomenal business. They have a ton of employees. I think at one point it like subsided and then went back up, but their secret sauce is the fact that they're so good at building a team. And I
Yeah.
think that they had over 70 employees in the Philippines at one time
Right.
with their own brands. And now they're acquiring brands and they're doing brand management and they're growing their own brands again. And they're just coming back in and taking off again. And I just talked to them recently. So love those guys very much. So the next product, obviously you probably won't share. Are you still selling that?
Yeah, still selling. It's reduced a little bit with a bit of competition that's come in, but it's more of a design based one, which I thought, because of my background, like bit of artistry background, I thought that would help, and did a lot of pick few testing against the competitors to make sure that mine was getting the most votes before I launched it. There has been some, market compression, I guess, and margin compression, but yeah, still going well.
That's
And
awesome.
then from there, kind of, found another niche and launched some products into that, and got some traction after that, and went from there really.
So this is 2018 at this point, 2019, or no? You when did you go full time? You went full time 11 months ago, you said?
No, about 2 years. I'm
Oh,
just
2 years
thinking when I
ago.
came to Australia, about 2 years. Um, yeah, so I think it's 2018 or so that I started to branch out, and then could really push once I could dedicate more time to it.
That's awesome, man. And so, how did you find Seller Systems? How did you find the inner circle?
Through podcasts, hearing you on podcasts, and I always thought that you have a very technical approach. And to be honest, the Nick and the Seller Trade Craft group kind of ended up closing up. And one of the big things from going from working in like a fun office environment to entrepreneurship, it's lonely, man. Like you don't have that human interaction and stuff like that. And I really missed out on that, and thought, okay, I need to find another group where I can talk with people and bounce ideas back and forth, and that kind of thing. And I was having an indexing issue, I remember at the time, and I'd heard you speaking about that on Seller Sessions podcast. So I shot you a message and then went from there really. But yeah, very much probably the most technical approach in the game. I would have thought your course, and that kind of attracted me to having. I think it takes some of the anxiety out of the approach. If you have data driven approach to follow, you get to a certain point along that path and think, okay, this isn't working. How can I adjust that? And like kind of very much vibed with what I wanted to do.
That's awesome, and absolutely right. I mean, it is super super lonely. The biggest journey for us and the biggest leaps that we made in our business was because of interacting with other people who were more or as successful as us. It was always about community masterminds, um, whether it was booking an Airbnb like in New York or in New Orleans. We would try to get a big Airbnb and get at least 10 guys to stay in the same place and be around
Right.
each other for several days and just have some drinks and food and just sit around the table and talk. And um to me, some of the best conversations, the biggest breakthroughs that we've made were just interacting with other like-minded people. Also in personally in the life. Now you made a big move. You moved continents and countries all the way from the UK, where weather is miserable most of the time, to Australia, where it's beautiful most of the time. And that was that lonely as well. Like you had your partner there. Did you have family there, or like was it kind of like you were starting all over?
Yeah, it was really tough period to be honest. It very much kind of leave your career behind, leave the country behind, family, friends, start from scratch. So just my partner really that I knew, and like a couple of her friends, added to which I'd now switching jobs into entrepreneurship, and kind of not a lot of communication with people is tough period to work through for sure. But getting there bit by bit, and it's all about community, I guess, and try not to be trapped in your head, and that is a lot of entrepreneurship really.
So where have you found like your tribe now? I mean, you have a mini mastermind as well within the inner circle. How's that going for you? Were you one of the successful mini masterminds?
I think we still do talk. We don't do regular calls. Which, to be honest, I've found that with a couple of masterminds, like they start off quite active at first, but then less so. But I do have that and another group, which is more messaging driven, but you can still get a lot of communication and shoot the shit or whatever on that side of things. I think just the longer you spend in the industry, the more people you get to know. And to be honest, like I'm quite an introverted person by nature, and I'm just starting to try and branch out and not fix that, but I guess broaden my horizons a bit. So I've just started being more active on Twitter and just kind of involving myself a bit more in the space. And I figure I'm going to be here for a while, so might as well talk to some peeps and get to know them and whatnot.
No, that's a phenomenal approach to it. It's not that you're broken; it's just that you're different, right? Uh, I've seen, and I follow you on Twitter, and I do appreciate your posts on a regular basis as well. So if anyone's not following him, do so. Um, so you're now in the inner circle. You've launched, you've started to connect with more people. We do have the mini masterminds to break down into and get a smaller tribe that you can have some more accountability, some more communication, some more personalized communication with some people that are on a similar level. We do have the weekly calls, the office hours, which you attended a lot more in the beginning, and then you still pop in on. But how many products have you launched in the last 12 to 18 months, and how are those going for you?
Bit of a mixed bag. So I guess I've got two brands now. Kind of the main one, um, I launched maybe 2 years ago, and the last year and a bit has been pushing that to international markets, so UK and Canada. And I started a new brand this year where I've launched it's either 3 or 4 products, and it's a trickier space, to be honest. It's more of a gift related keyword space, and I'm definitely finding some challenges with that for sure. I think it's a niche where you need to do a lot more validation in terms of pick through testing, because you just don't have the keyword search volume very specific to your product. So it has to be a more compelling offer in some way. And if you have lots of different variations of products, like completely polar opposite, but on the same gift keywords, it can be hard to stand out for sure. So I've had a kind of one product that I've lost money and liquidated for that brand, and another one that kind of sold through, and then I've got 1 or 2 that are selling fine. With the main brand, we expand into international markets, and just this year hit the 7-figure run rate finally. So just kind of deciding to where to go. Kind of 7 figures has always been my guiding star. Okay, we'll get there, and then once you get there, it's like, all right, now what? Kind of seems a bit weird to throw out a random arbitrary number goal now, but trying to figure out what my approach will be for that for this year, and got kind of 3 products that we're working on for that brand right now. And my ultimate goal is to start a dog brand. I'm a dog guy, and I want to start a dog brand and kind of give back, because I think I'll get a lot more fulfillment rather than flinging random products doing that kind of thing. So kind of main goal, I guess, is to build up the main brand that's doing the 7 figures, sell that in 18 months to 2 years, and kind of have the dog thing to keep me entertained for the next few years, I guess.
So there's a lot to unravel there and unwrap, right? Like, so it's great that you've expanded you've expanded to a second brand. So this is a very common thing for people to do, because our approach is we use data to determine what is going to be easier to launch, right? What is going to increase our success rate the most, allowing us to scale the business. Now, sometimes in a certain niche, you might run out of potential products, or that maybe that initial brand is a little too wide open and you want to go a different direction. So you end up like creating a whole brand that's a little bit more focused, because you find a handful of SKUs in that direction that you'd like. And so it's better to make them more of a brand, do some more branding around them, and create a whole new brand around it. Especially now, if you're looking at doing pet when you weren't doing pet before, you're going to want to create now a third brand that is focusing in the pet space, unless the giftable one was already. Maybe it is. So that giftable thing is you're right on the money there. I mean, so you talked about giftable keywords, more generic keywords, what we call outlier keywords on the master keyword list, right? When you look at the data dive sheet, you're going to see that a lot of your competition isn't doing well or doing a good job ranking for them, and the ones that do a good job are crushing it, right? And that's very much a function of not just how you compared to the niche, but how you compare to the other options on those generic keywords. So if it's gift basket for new dads, making this up, I hope it's not your product, but it sounds like but
No,
because you're a new dad, but just taking a stab in the dark, I hope it's not. So gift basket for new dads, right? Like survival kit of like what dads need when they first become dads. That probably doesn't have a ton of search volume, but if you think about what is a gift for a new dad, or gift basket for new dad, or a giftable product for new dad, you need to be able to stand out to those other products that might not be similar to what you're selling. And so when you do things like PickFu, you can increase your chances of success. They're a great program for anyone watching that doesn't know. Helium 10 offers that service. I think they call it Audiences, and it's powered by PickFu, but they take random people that they've vetted to check your product image versus someone else's, which product they would rather have, and they give a detailed reason why. And then you can do that before you even make your purchase. But your success rate is right on target with what we would expect with a brand like that. Like, one product, about, even with products that are more straightforward, we're looking at 20% of our products we still might lose money on. 30% of our products, we might not continue. We'll just sell through them, but we didn't really lose on them. And then about half the products we're going to keep and continue to order, and they do okay, right? And it sounds like you're right there, where one product out of four, you lost a little bit of money. Another one you liquidated, and half of them you're continuing to sell. So you've done a great job of the product development there. Now you're in a position where you hit 7 figures. You have to make the decision: scale or sell. You've made this decision to scale to other marketplaces before selling, but here's the inflection point, right? Now you have a third brand in mind, but so now you're adding additional SKUs. You have to build the team and the capabilities of the team and start building out that org chart to go to that next level of organization that we talk about. Or you sell off that first brand as a big chunk, and then you can focus the energy of your team that you've already built and what you currently have on that next brand. Why are you putting that sale 18 to 24 months out when multiples are so great right now? Like, and I'm asking you this seriously to help you think through it from a data perspective. And tomorrow, we're actually going to have a call about setting objectives for the year that are driven and data based, with data based leading measures, like leading activities that you can do on a daily basis to get there and make it really mathematical, right? Because that's the way we do everything. So you're really going to appreciate that tomorrow, I think. And that's what we worked on locally when we did. So this has been really fundamental in our business to go from 10 to 50 million, right? Like next year we want to hit 25 with, we want to be at a run rate of 50 million within 18 months. This is what we've put out. And now we have leading activities to actually help us do that. So for you to hit that 1 million run rate, you have to, you think it's an arbitrary number, 3 million, 5 million, 6 million, right? There is an inflection point to the next number in this business, and it's very specific usually. So it's funny that you're talking about this. So I want to ask you, where do you want that brand to be before you sell it? What is a number that you have in mind, and why?
Really good question. So for one, I'm still working on the answer. I think to just go back to the previous question, why not sell now when the multiples are so high? I do agree that they'll probably come down within that 18, 24 months period once all the aggregators are kind of running out of cash or have gone bust or whatever. Because our lives are split between the UK and Australia, I kind of want to be able to afford a house in both, to be honest, so that we can go from one country to another, not have to set up and rent apartments and buy new furniture and stuff like that. So Australia is so expensive for property. $1 million isn't going to fix that issue. So I think that, yes, although the multiples will come down during the period that I'm looking to grow, my hope is that I can outgrow by increasing the revenue during that period to offset, and it won't be kind of negatively offset too much by the multiples coming down.
And let me do the math for the people watching, because we've done this math a couple of times. If you can get, I'll make the math easy. It's probably between 5 and 7x right now that you might be able to get for a 7-figure run rate brand. Maybe you need to be 7 figures EBITDA, but let's say you can get 5x, and in 18 months you can only get 4x, because we're expecting multiples to come down because of, like you said, the compression of and the shrinking of this industry right now. For anyone watching that isn't aware, there's over 200 companies that are out there that are buying businesses, Amazon specific brand businesses. They're called aggregators. They've raised a combined $13 billion in the last 18 months. If it's probably more, I'm not exaggerating. So what's expected to happen is that most of them are bad at Amazon. They're mostly finance guys that have come into the space and saw an arbitrage opportunity, and then they're not good at running and growing the brands that they purchase. And so some of them are going belly up. They're trying to package what they've bought and sell it to others that are doing a better job at operating at that scale. And so we're expecting what is being paid to kind of come down. So even if it comes down to 4x, then it's a 20% less that you're going to get. You would need to grow your business significantly more than 20% to make up for that 20% down. So to do the math easy, let's say you were doing $500,000 in profit and you could get a 5x, that's $2.5 million you'd get paid instead of at 4x, $2 million. So it's a $500,000 less pay that you're going to get from a check. Now, how do you would have to overcome that $500,000, which represents 25% or more, with the growth of your business in that same amount of time. And sometimes going through those growing pains, you have margin compression, you have to add to the team, you have to grow the organization, you have to get better at management. And you have some products that are going to fade away that you have to outpace as well. So you have products that are just doing okay, like some of your original products that you say, margin compression, things are there. Maybe in a year you don't have that product anymore, so now you have to replace that revenue too. So that's why I posed that question to you, because it sounds like you've thought it through. You're thinking 18 months. What is the amount of money that you need to feel comfortable that you can invest back into that third brand that you want to start, buy those houses you want to buy, and leverage those houses back into the business or into your lifestyle?
Still working on this number. I think 3 million plus is probably somewhere that would, it needs to be 3 million plus really, and that would kind of be able to get us location independence. But yeah, honestly, this is my plan for January. Workout targets. I feel like you can get to the 7-figure run rate just by throwing stuff at the wall and see what sticks. But to get past that, you need more target approached and team building and stuff like that. And I'm not good at that, to be honest. That's definitely going to be the next stretch of my journey.
I'm excited to walk you through it, because like that's something that we're really diving deep into, and we're doing more content around it. It's about setting up that org chart. And what's interesting is like, I think I have it. I have it pulled up. Like I'm literally going to be submitting it with you guys and going through it tomorrow. It's the org chart for a private label brand. Now, what's funny is that as a solopreneur, you're literally in every seat. It's you. Your name sits in every seat, but every seat has its own KPI, regardless of who's sitting in it, whether it's you or a VA or a full-time employee or someone needs to own that KPI for every single seat in that org chart. And so the best way to conceptualize and understand how you need to grow is to look at two things: that org chart, first of all, and understand what you're good at and what you're not, and be self-evaluate yourself honestly, right? And then secondly is to look at the valuation of your company and all of the levers that control the valuation of your company, whether that's revenue, whether that's profit, and whether other capabilities, unique capabilities to your business. You need to understand all of those levers, and then you can accurately understand what is the next step to get to that next goal. Like, what is the lever I can pull on with the least amount of effort that will grow the business the most to hit that target that you want of $3 million exit, assuming a multiple, right? So it's very easy to, when you start plugging in real numbers into those two worksheets, it becomes much easier to conceptualize and then create a real plan to get there, especially when you're talking about pulling a lever and you understand that there's a leading activity to that lever. I'm excited to walk you through that. I think that that's the next step. I think you can get there a lot faster than 18 months though. My goal with you would be, good to hear. My goal with you would be to have you have offers on your business in the next 9 to 12 months. And I think that you could easily get there at the range that you're talking, with a run rate of, if you're doing a 7-figure run rate right now and you need that $3 million exit, I think you're less than 5 good SKUs away from that exit that you're desiring. And I don't think it'll take you that long. So the two biggest levers being for revenue and profit, right? So revenue is controlled by existing SKUs. There's only two things that make up revenue. It's existing SKUs and new SKUs, right? So if you're focused on growing revenue, then you need to focus on growing new SKUs, right? And then you can maintain and you can optimize the existing SKUs as well to try to maximize profit. But um, making the move to Europe may have been something that slowed you down. Even though you're increasing revenue, you might be increasing it at a lower rate than focusing on new products in America or new products in .com. That's been a major thing for us to always try to weigh and try to make and weigh mathematically. And I'm just curious, since you made that move, what percentage of your sales, like what percentage of your sales are in the UK versus US? Like, what is the difference in revenue?
I wish I had the numbers to hand. I'd say UK is probably 10%, Canada 5%, and then the rest of the US. I totally agree with what you said. It's in my mind when I thought, okay, international expansion, I thought you've got the product, it's known good, easy to have the listings and port the reviews across. You've got the supply chain, whatever, easy peasy, free money. It's not quite the case because, for one, you have to set up new 3PLs, you have more PPC to manage, and margins can be less with VAT and things like that in the UK. So although I launched some of the products internationally, there's actually a couple that I'm going to cut just because, yes, they sell and they make profit, but it's not kind of enough per day for me to spend that much time managing them. I think if I dedicate that time to launching new products in the US, it'll have a much better return on my time invested. So just keeping the kind of the bigger winners in the international markets, but I'm cutting a couple and I'll probably just reintroduce them for Q4 because it's a Q4 friendly product. But yeah, I kind of agree. It's not what it first seems, where you just think, oh, free money. There's definitely more to it than that for sure.
Yeah, there's definitely an amount of overhead that comes into working every single SKU you have. And it's a minimum amount of effort required for even just maintenance. And then if you think about the effort required to create those listings, to do a new launch, to maintain them for PPC, for growth, you have launch growth and then you have maintenance. And even to get to maintenance, you had a lot of front loaded work that if you had just put it into new SKUs here, it probably would have been triple the revenue for you. So, like I said, I think you're probably closer to that exit than you think you are where you're at, because I know how good you are at Amazon now, and I know that your validation process is solid. I think that, and knowing that the success rate. So if you know that the success rate of your products you will keep, a successful product is half of what you launch. Now you can work backwards for how many you need to look at become samples, and how many samples become orders, right? And so now you have a leading activity of analyzing products to create a pipeline to place orders. And if your goal is to launch 5 successful products this year, then you should be aiming to launch 10 with the goal of keeping 5, and then understand what the average revenue from each of those is. And then by the end of this year, you can work backwards from whatever you think that will be. Now, you might need to launch 6, you might need to launch 4, but you might need to keep 4 or 6 instead of 5, right? I'm just pulling those numbers, but if you know the potential of each product and you assume half are going to work out, then you can launch double that amount and then work backwards from there with your leading activities, your ordering, and then understand what are the enablers for each of those. So if I'm going to now have 10 new products I'm launching, what are the different things I'm going to need on my end in my company from a staffing perspective, from a resources perspective in order to do that? Is it capital? Well, we have access to capital. Is it people? Then I need to hire people, and I need to start filling those seats in that organizational chart with people that aren't me. I'm not going to wear all those hats anymore. I can hand one of those hats to somebody else. And so it becomes much more process oriented. It becomes much more specific and much easier to execute at that point. So you're at that inflection point where you've decided you're not going to scale to 8 figures, but you're going to scale to enough to get to that desired exit. And I think you can do it this year. And I'm looking forward to a follow-up with you about it.
I'm excited, man. Yeah, everything you spoke about sounds exactly what I want. I need more structure. I need more KPIs and kind of that kind of stuff to keep me accountable. And then just, yeah, grow from there, hopefully.
Dude, you're going to do it. And I just love the journey. I love the fact that you've been through so much, that you've had your successes and you've had your failures, and that you've learned and kept going. I think that next brand, that third brand's gonna have a lot of legs to it right away. No pun intended. But I think you'll be able to hit the ground running. And I appreciate you sharing. If there was anything you wanted to share with anyone just getting started, or anyone that's just making a decision to do this business, what would you share with them?
Said this on Twitter a couple of times recently. Like, you don't need intelligence, you don't need business background, you just need resilience. Like, I'm from an artistry background, zero business experience at all. I'm used to drawing pretty pictures, not filling out Excel spreadsheets. You just need, to stick with it. A good guiding star in terms of a course, in my opinion, will get you there much quicker and more safely than if you try and go it alone. Just follow the path and you should get there, really.
I'm looking forward to helping you get there over the next year, man. Someone was asking your Twitter handle. Give a shout out so they can follow you.
Oh, it's not a great Twitter handle. It's my name in reverse. So instead of Robin T. Brown, it's Brown T. Robin on Twitter.
There you go. I hope everyone follows you. And it's very true. As a solopreneur, single person, you can drive this business to 7 figures in revenue by yourself, really, over the course, and you can only, going faster is only determined based on the amount of time you can put into the business and how much capital you have in the business. But everyone does it at their own pace, and everyone has their own level of risk, their own journey. So that's why I was so happy to be able to finally talk to you and share that with you. So thank you for this opportunity to speak with you and to hear more about it.
Pleasure, man. Thanks for having me.